Good afternoon. This is Patrick with Emerald City Traders. We are going live for a live session on technical analysis Q&A. I'm going to give it a few minutes here. Oh, we got an error here. Let me try to restart this stream here. Well, maybe I don't need to restart it. Let's see if this works here. Give it a few minutes. Well, I've got the playback. Okay, let's try this. Okay, I think we're golden. Hopefully we're golden. Okay, good evening, guys. How's it going? Welcome to the live stream. We're waiting for a few minutes to let people get into the channel. I'm going to go over today a little bit of the technical analysis on the S&P 500. I asked people to go ahead and put some ticker symbols into the chat, and we'll go over a few ticker symbols. There's something I wanted to look at today. Well, a couple things. There's a few posts, but we did see that latest news about Warren Buffett purchasing purchasing a company, I believe for $10 billion. I wanted to talk a little bit about that because there was a point, well, there was a method to the madness, but there was a point to the post, and here's the post, and we said that this isn't bad for the market sentiment. It's a sign of life. Um, Smart money has been sitting out this rally for the most part. I mean, maybe they're involved a little bit. And the reason why this is an important post is because Warren Buffett himself has said he's been sitting on the sidelines waiting and waiting and waiting. Um, he hasn't exactly seen a less risky play, but this news that just came out is Warren Buffett's changing his position, at least publicly, from sitting out to finally stepping in and seeing a little bit of hope with some of the companies. Now, it doesn't mean that the market will rally necessarily, but if I had to put money on it, this is a really good sign for the bulls. So that's one piece of news I wanted to go over. Another thing I wanted to go over was a trade we did this week. I'm not going to go over them. I'm just going to pick one that we did this week. I'm still waiting on Apple. I am short Apple. We'll see how that turns out this week. Um, TLT is kind of a trade that I wanted to go over was TLT. This was on July 1st. We said coming into $162 mild support and 161.52 heavy support. We'll begin adding long position at 162. If we get there and add all the way down to 161.52. That's the first trade I want to look at. And so let me put in TLT. Okay, let me change the volume here because this is getting a little. I played with the volume this weekend, so I haven't really got it back to how I wanted it. Okay, let's go with that. So we chose 162. I was willing to add all the way down to one. I forget what the number was. 162 was mild support. 161.52. 161.52 was heavy support. This one kind of played with us because it didn't exactly get all the way down there. It did it in pre-market, so you would have had to start entering your trade, either during the day, the first day, but you would have gotten in a little early. The second day, you would have had to got it in pre-market. And so this is the way that this is what the stock looked like at the time. Let me go to my little pen here. I'll try to make this week's stream brief for you guys. We'll try to get it brief. I don't want to rush through things, but at the same time, I want to get to all the items. So this is kind of what it looked like in this area when we did the post. Prices coming down to support. And then if I go back to look at my chart, whoops. I am on. How's it going? How's it going, Barris? Will the live stream video be uploaded to your channel? I'm currently working and can't watch it. Yes, I will absolutely load it to the channel. I'll keep it on there. At some point, we might start breaking them down to smaller videos. Maybe the Sunday night video will do a little bit longer, but maybe the rest of the videos we have, we'll keep the videos pretty short or keep them to the point. So TLT, like the first day, it came down a little bit. You can see it coming down here, and I hope you guys can see that this was kind of the support level we were choosing right in this area. You would have had to bought it before it even hit support. And then it was kind of the same issue the next day, is it didn't exactly come down to our support level. So what I want to do is I want to go to the 30-minute, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So our first support, I think, was 161.52. 162. Let me see what we actually said here. So our first support was 162, and then the next support was 161.52. So 162 is this level right here. That was the first area to buy. So you could have got in here a little bit early if you really wanted to. I did get in just based on the price action and seeing the support, and I was thinking maybe I do like to stick to the trading plan, but maybe my support level was a little bit off. And I was willing to add to this position all the way down to this price here. And then I think we set the stop loss. It says stop loss 161.20. I was willing to add all the way down to this portion before my stop was hit, and I would back out of the trade. Something else is going on. So I'm still in this trade. We'll see how it turns out. Depending on the futures this weekend, this might gap down if the futures do pretty well tonight. If it doesn't, we could see continuation. I do like this pattern though. I do like this find support, back to support, and then it's kind of taken off. I do like what this is doing. Although it's the bond market, we don't really know what it's going to do. That was what I wanted to look at. I want to look at the next one on the list. And let's see if I can find I had some requests here for some tickers. And really, I did want to go over broad market, so maybe we'll start with that, and then we'll get to the other ones. So I don't want to go over all of the broad market. I just want to look at the S&P 500, see what it's doing here. We'll start off with the daily chart. So you can see here, here's the thing, and this is where, we have to really think about this when we're trading. And this applies to all of our stocks that we trade, right? It's not just the S&P. Yeah, other stocks will go up and down as we continue through time. And just because the S&P is going down doesn't mean other stocks will also go down. So what I'm looking at still are these two levels. If you notice these two blue lines I have on the screen are the support lines. And we're in an uptrend. We continue to make higher highs, higher lows, as you can see this. We are definitely in an uptrend. We did have a rising wedge in this area right here. We broke down out of that wedge. Pretty bearish candle coming down here. And since the bearish candle down, we've kind of just been chopping up. We pulled back a lot, found support again, and now we're back up here. So it is 100% possible that we'll end up gapping up with another candle up here. Possibly even, and I don't know what level that candle is going to be. I just drew it onto the chart conceptual purpose. I don't actually know how high it's going to go, but there is resistance here at 320. We are looking for a gap fill in this area, It doesn't mean that the gap will get filled, but ideally it would be nice to see that. And honestly, as price gets closer and closer to the gap fill, traders are going to want to fill that gap. It becomes a thing. The gap fill will actually suck price up to it. Traders will start to keep their eye on that, especially as we get closer and closer into this price area. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, and hopefully it doesn't mess up the screen here. So as traders come into this price area, you can see like higher highs, higher lows all week long last week. There was a little bit of futures action on Friday, which market was closed, but the futures did trade Friday morning. And then you can see here as price comes into this gap, it's going to want to fill. But by the time we get up to this resistance area, you have to ask yourself, do we really think that this resistance is going to hold? To me, I don't think so. I think we might see a little slight pullback and then possibly go up to the next resistance, which I don't have it on the chart, but it's above this candle here, this maybe the high of this candle, up in this zone, and really this is all just a zone. So we'll see what price does. I do have a lot of short positions throughout the market. I was looking at these two areas as resistance, this gap area as resistance. So we'll see what happens. I have a short in Apple right now. I was looking at Apple on the weekly time frame. That's why I entered the trade. If I go to Apple, and I can tell you right now that the S&P 500 gapping up is not going to help my short position in Apple. But looking at Apple, I was not calling this a reversal candle, but I was saying it's a possible reversal candle. And then what I was looking at was this next candle, which was last week's. We were looking at like a retracement of that first reversal candle. Just checking back through the comments here. How's it going, James? Got it. This week will be the first time short a stock. We'll get into the short trading. And I've heard shares prior to shorting this. Well, actually, I can just answer that. So to be honest with you, when I say I'm short a stock, what I mean is I'm usually doing that through the options vehicle. Yeah, sometimes there aren't shares available to short. It's if your broker allows it, and so that would kind of be a question for your broker. Two, I've only done one trade after hours pre-market. Do you ever trade out of market hours? To answer, the question was, do I ever trade after hours or pre-market? No, I usually do not trade after market or pre-market. Um, yes, you can. I mean, you can trade before and after market. There's just not a lot of volume. There's not a lot of liquidity. And for me, I don't like chasing. I like to see what the New York Open is going to do at 6:30 in the morning. And a lot of times you'll see a run up before the New York Open. In fact, Asia and Europe will run it up all night, and then New York opens, and then it sells it off. So James, for me, I like to see what the market's going to do at 6:30, and then I usually take it from there. I hope that answers your question. Anyway, feel free to keep putting questions in the comments, guys, and we'll just keep going here. Um, so okay, so I took the short on Apple um, weekly reversal candle or possible reversal candle, and then I saw this most recent week, which was last week. I saw a retracement, a little bit more than half, maybe 68%, 70% of that initial move, maybe close to 80, well, 76%, closer to that 80. Um, so that's what I'm looking for. And my stop loss for Apple short is 373. So I'm willing to let price come all the way up to 373. And then I'm going to give it room. I'm going to give it time, and I'm going to give it room. I have time on the options, and so I'm going to let it do its thing. I'm willing to let this thing, run for a little bit. One thing I can tell you about technical analysis is the longer that price runs sideways up in this area, the more likely price is going to go higher. Just a little bit of technical analysis. So we'll see how that turns out. That's the Apple short. I like this double top right now on the daily chart. You see these 2 points here, double top. I like the market symmetry. Um, and then what I would like to see is, a move down, maybe consolidation. But it's completely possible that Apple continues higher. If you notice, Apple's also in that same uptrend. It's a beast of a stock, making higher highs, higher lows. That's what you want to see in a long, nice uptrend. No problem, James. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. And then if you need more info, I can try to look, aside from this, I'll try to look for some answers. Um, so that is the analysis that I wanted to get to. Back to let's go to the QQQ. Same thing on the QQQ. The Nasdaq has been a beast of a run. Higher highs, higher lows. We're kind of forming this channel, and I'm kind of still looking for that, at least a slight pullback to this 250 area. I might not get it. It might just continue higher, and I'm willing to take the chance on my Apple short. I'm willing to apply the risk there. So let's look at some stocks. And people asked for analysis on particular stocks, so that's what I'll do next. Is we'll get into some of the names, and I believe. And if you guys have any stocks you want to look at, just throw them in the chat. I'll try to get to them. But for now, let me look at what people are asking for. So let's take a look at AMD. I love AMD, both directions. And it's funny, I've been kind of flipped about AMD. I like taking the trades both directions. This one I want to start on the weekly chart. There's a reason for this, because the last video we talked about AMD. In fact, we have an AMD video in. We made one on catching this AMD bounce play at this price level over here. The reason why I like AMD is because it's made this run. So it came up at the end of 19, coming into year 2020, and it's been kind of bouncing around, pulling back. It came all the way down to this level, found resistance here, and then broke out. And since it's broken out, it hasn't fallen back below, or at least closed the week below this price area. So this pattern here is still bullish. It still can be played. Maybe we'll see a couple more ticks. It would be nice to get back in at a lower price. I've already sold out of AMD. Definitely bullish, absolutely bullish on the weekly chart. I I would not be surprised if AMD was trading at $65, $70 by October. So that's not a prediction. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. So we see the same thing. Now here's the daily chart, and you can see the same thing. Price goes up, it consolidates. Even though this is a pretty extreme drop, this is still consolidation, and then it finds supports and then rallies, breaks through. Here's that big weekly candle we saw on the weekly time frame. To me, this entire pattern here is consolidation. Maybe it'll bounce around some more and then finally break out. Maybe it'll sell off. Keep a tight stop. Maybe we'll have a stop at $48. If it falls back through $48, I would expect AMD to at least come back to this 200 period moving average at 46.04. Maybe even lower, maybe at $42, and then possibly even lower to $36, $37. My preferred outcome is a breakout. And I guess it's also dependent on what the market is doing at the time. Let's look at the next one. I hope that answers the question on AMD. KR, I think that's Kroger. So KR and Kroger, absolutely amazing, especially since the pandemic has started. Let's look at the weekly chart, and an uptrend above all of the moving averages. Higher highs, higher lows on the weekly. It's already it's having a little bit of trouble breaking through this resistance here, but it's trying. It really is trying. Let's look at the daily chart. Whoops. Okay. Daily chart, same thing, in an uptrend above all the moving averages. We did see a little bit of selling down here. I don't know what day this was. This was probably earnings. In fact, that might have been this day. I see a red candle down here on volume, but you know what? This, to me, is bullish. Maybe price came down to test this 200 period moving average. And right now, it's consolidating. It made another bullish day here. I don't know what day that was. That was probably on 629. So it's still bullish. It's making kind of a bull flag pattern right now. I I don't like to chase bull flag patterns in this context. Sometimes I will. I would like to see price come down a little bit further. The thing with this with Kroger is it might not come down a little bit further. We could wake up certainly tomorrow and see it up here at 35 area, measuring the move from this green candle. We'll see what happens. I like Kroger. I actually took a IPO this last week. I believe it was earlier this last week. It was in Albertsons. And normally I don't take IPOs, but recently a couple of us, a buddy of mine showed me uh, AZEK, and then we talked about Albertsons. So we were kind of hitting a little bit of IPOs for our longer term accounts. And so I do like both of those. I would love Kroger. I just don't want to pay this, certainly could go higher. I just don't want to pay this price for it. Um, in fact, let me go to AZEK since we were just talking about it. Move forward here. And guys, feel free continue to put tickers in the chat if you would like analysis on them. I'm gonna run through a few more and then I'll be done looking at requested stock. So this is AZEK. Love the company, yeah, and they have quite a bit of debt. I do love this price action, and again, it's longer term, so I'm not concerned about it falling down. You know, honestly, the reason why I keep looking at this company is because if it does come back down, I'm willing to add to my position. I'm willing to sit through this. I'm willing to hold it for a couple years at least, a few years, maybe even the longer term. Not playing options in AZEK. I don't even know if it is. I don't even know if you can. Let me look here. Um, awesome. We'll look at OBCI next. Yeah. Yes, Bears. Let's see here. So yeah, AZIC doesn't have options. Not that I can tell, or not that I'm not on my broker. Um, we'll look at Twitter, and then we're gonna look at OBCI. You're welcome. Hi, Spencer. Twitter. Heard a lot of good things. And I still haven't actually played Twitter. I have a lot of people that I know that play Twitter. It had a little bit of a tumble here recently. Sold off a little bit. That probably had to do with a lot of media. I don't want to speculate because I don't follow Twitter. But this is probably, you know, political, and I don't mean to get political, but this is probably a bad. I should say political. I should say this is bad news. That the company probably had a little bit of bad news. I believe just looking at earnings calendar, earnings is probably coming up if it hasn't already. So we want to be mindful of that on taking positions right before earnings. However, Twitter did find a little bit of support here at $28. If there was a time to buy, this could have been that price period, but I would expect a little bit of pullback here. We're finding resistance at all three moving averages. So I don't know if I would buy it at this point, but I would wait for maybe a pullback to support, or wait for it to get over these moving averages, maybe 32.20, 32.25, $33. I want to look at the weekly chart because when companies look like this, it's not as clear to me. We are technically in an uptrend, higher highs and higher lows. So this could be, for me, this was probably a breakout area. And it's a little bit concerning that we broke down through that area. We did recapture it, which is bullish more than it's bearish. But I do want to look at the weekly chart. Um, I don't see a lot more clarity on the weekly chart other than this. Price loves to come back up to these areas before rolling over again. I do like, I'd almost have to zoom out even further than the weekly chart. It's had a nice little run up here, so this could just be making a higher low compared to the bottom, and it could just continue higher. For Twitter, I would set a stop. You know, I wouldn't short it. I would possibly wait for it to come all the way up here before shorting it. But if you're going long, just keep a trailing stop maybe. OBCI. Barris, awesome. How's it going, dude? Let's check out OBCI. And we're gonna be doing this, we'll be doing these hopefully once a week, hopefully Sundays. Keep checking the channel for updates or videos that we're gonna be putting out. OBCI, this has been on a beast. This is the weekly chart. So you can see the weekly chart had this. Oops, let me get my little drawing tool here. Actually, so if I drew a trend line down here, can you see this blue line here? Let me make it thicker. Okay, so you can see it, price kind of found resistance, came down, found resistance again, and then it finally broke out. Okay, broke out, back test, and it's been riding up. Now, mind you, this is the weekly chart. And the thing with weekly charts is it takes a long time to develop, but you can see it broke out here. This was a lot of profit taking in this candle here, pointing to lower prices. It made a bear flag and lower prices to the area, which is about the same height as the reversal candle. So if I did a measured move from here, this candle is about the same distance from there as it is to there, which gave us a measured move. Traders bought it up. 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. 4 weeks go by. There's resistance here. This could have been another bear flag sending price below, but that's not what happened. What happened was price broke above. Shorts got squeezed. They covered. Price went all the way up to $9. Consolidated probably over the weekend. Broke out again. And now we're on our third week. So we have 1, 2. Now we're on our third week. Price did put in a reversal from this high of 1741. Put in a reversal candle. This is bearish, and I don't mean bearish in terms of in the larger picture this whole pattern is bullish. What I mean is this next week could have a little bit of downside, possibly to the $9 range, $10 range, maybe $12 range, but it's very extended away from these moving averages. So I would expect price to at least come down to this $9 area. It doesn't have to. It could always continue higher. I don't even know what these guys do here. Um, so let's look at the daily chart. Maybe we'll get a little bit better of a clue. But on the weekly chart, it looks like there could be further downside. Also, mind you, on a weekly chart, price could also open up Monday. It could rally up to $16, and then it could sell back off, which would give us a long wick. And then imagine there being a body down here. You know, I'm just drawing out the possibilities. Again, it could also run its course and just continue higher. But based on the weekly chart, it doesn't look like that's what it's saying to me right now. It looks like it might pull back here. Not bearishly pull back, but just consolidate. Okay, and this gives me a little bit more clarity. I'm in the daily chart now. And you could do this with all your stocks, guys. You could just go through and actually look at the way. Okay, my headset turned off there. We need to get that changed out. So if you look at the way that put it on the weekly chart, look at the chart. What is the chart telling you? What is it telling you? Is it bullish or bearish? Are we neutral? You know, look at the daily chart. If I'm looking at this, like this just gave me, so I looked at the weekly chart and do this with all of your stocks. I look at the weekly chart. Okay, I know what this candle is trying to tell me. It's trying to tell me possibly lower prices, right? And then I say, okay, well, it's not completely 100%. So what is the daily chart telling me? Because every chart's going to be different. Now I'm looking at the daily chart. Aha, here it is. Okay, I'm not saying that this is the price that it's going to come down to, right? But I'm going to take the low of this candle, which is $10.82. The low of this huge green candle is $10.82. Do me a favor, Barris. Throw this on your chart. $10.82. And what we're going to do is we're going to come back to this. I'm actually kind of curious. So maybe this week, post it in our group on the Facebook page and tell me what happens with this. And we'll say target 1. Okay? I usually don't make him this green and bold, and what I want to know is the price of this stock in a couple days. What this chart is telling me is that it's going to kind of slowly fade back to this support. It doesn't mean that this support's going to hold. The next one I would look down to is maybe this 9.50 $10 support. And below that, I'm going to look at this $9 gap support, and you can just keep drawing your supports as you get closer. You don't need to do it all in one day. Uh, but for the record, it doesn't mean that it can't open up Monday and continue higher. What I'm saying is, if I were going to be a buyer, if I wanted to buy this company, I would wait for it to come back and at least check back in with this break. This is a breakout. This is a breakout area. So let it at least come back to this 11. Um, you know, Let it at least come back to this price area 11. I don't remember what we said here. Oh, 1082. We put that on the chart, right side of the chart. Okay. This is the first area that I would like to be a buyer at. Right? I'm not going to buy it in between support and resistance, and it looks like this is definitely resistance here. This looks like resistance to me. See, price came up this day and then checked in and then just kind of sold off, faded on Thursday. So let's check back on in on that one. I hope that answered your questions on that one, Barris. Let's look at the next one. Okay, Twitter, AMD, we went over Kroger. NCLH. Okay, James, you ready to go over NCLH? Oh, did you put another one in there? Stocks that are... Okay, so let's look at NCLH. If any of you guys want to know, if you want to look at another stock, go ahead and put it in the chat. Otherwise, we are getting closer here to wrapping it up. I do want to look at this one. Okay, so cruise lines, and this kind of applies for all of the. I don't mean to put them all in the same category, but cruise lines, casinos, travel, the transports. In fact, let's look at the transports first. The transports first. I mean, we're getting better. You know, the chart was looking a little ugly there for a while, but we are making higher highs, higher highs, higher lows. It did break out and it back tested support, and now we're kind of shot back up into resistance. And so one of two things might happen on this. Either resistance is going to hold and the price is going to fall back down. We could also gap higher. So if you're going to trade something like Norwegian Cruise Lines, it's good to always follow the transports and the broad market because they will be correlated to some degree. It doesn't mean always, 100% of the time. So let's go back here. Oops. So some higher, yeah, yes, higher highs and higher lows. We could put that in the bull camp. As far as we did kind of make a higher high over here, but then it pulled back. It consolidated, almost made this triangle pattern, broke out of it, pulled back again. Finding support around here, around $10, and then it kind of took off. It's kind of all over the place. However, if you're in this trade, I would just keep a tight stop over here. I don't necessarily like this pattern that it's what it's doing right now, and I'll kind of zoom in here. That didn't work. So to me, it's without messing with the chart here, this could be price came down here, and this to me looks like consolidation, and we are consolidating underneath all three of the moving averages. Here's one, here's two, and there's a third one under there you can't see. All three moving averages, it's consolidating underneath. In one aspect, this does look like it could be a bullish pattern, but in another aspect, I don't know if I like the way that it's sitting down there at support, consolidating. Usually and this probably gives us the best view, when a price moves down and then it hasn't exactly rallied completely away from here, but in an area of looking at this, to me, it could possibly be a bear flag pattern, uh, waiting to develop, kind of developing here. It could drop, the floor could drop out and it could go lower. But just because something is a bear flag doesn't mean that it can't continue higher. I just don't know if this is where I would be focusing my attention as an investor. It depends on how long you want to hold the stock. But let me look in at another chart because that gives us the bigger picture. Here's another interesting picture. This is the weekly chart. I just noticed a huge pullback. Price ran up and tested this resistance, this breakdown candle. Price ran up and tested it, and then it's just found resistance. Now it could have ran up, tested resistance, pulled back a little bit, and then it's looking to break through. But we need a lot more time for that to happen. It's possible it happens, but we need a little bit more time, I think. Let me look at a lower time frame. And while I'm waiting here, any other stocks you guys want to look at? How's it going, Victoria? Gap fill, headline support, looks like a bear flag. Yeah. Yeah, even if I throw some fibs on here, and really it's kind of like where do we want to draw them from, right? And a lot of people think I think about it and I'm kind of, Boeing, there's a lot of plays that I took that a lot of people thought I was crazy for. So, it's good to do things that a lot of other people aren't doing. If too many people are bearish to stock, sometimes it's more likely the stock goes up the more people that are bearish. But if I look at it like this right here, to me it looks like it wants to continue lower. Just looking at this and looking at the fibs, it did come all the way back up here and back tested 38.2% fib. And that's just drawn in the fibs from that price level. It doesn't mean, you could have drawn them from a different price level. Let me go to a different, I want to go to an hourly just to kind of see what's going on here. So if I was in this position right now, I do see lower highs, lower highs, lower lows. We did find support pre-market down here at 1428, and then we made a higher low from that price, and then we made another higher low. So to me, what I would want to see, even though Thursday we kind of sold off and we're making another bear flag on the hourly, I would want to see this price level hold, right? But if it doesn't hold, it could come back down here to, towards 14 to $15. And then I would want to see that hold. And if it doesn't hold, I don't know if 1428 would hold at that point if we're selling off that much. Maybe just keep a tight stop loss and just see how the trade turns out. So I thought there was one more. I think that wraps it up for any other stocks you guys want to look at. Any questions that we have regarding technical analysis, regarding uh, fundamentals, macroeconomics, anything you guys want to talk about before we wrap it up here. We looked at the broad market. If you guys want to check out the broad market, go back to the beginning and I just went over the S&P 500 and the Qs. You know what? Let's look at the VIX. Just another item that we can do here, and then me and Victoria were talking about, we're going over the VIX. Um, you know, I love the way this looks, and um, we have to take this with a grain of salt. The last market crash there was, we could go back in history and look at it. It took a little bit of time for the VIX to kind of settle down. It would kind of pull down. It would find a range for a while, pull down, find a range for a while. Maybe it'd have a couple spikes up. It would spike up and then it would pull back a little bit more. I like the way this looks. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't want you to trade the way that I trade. But I am definitely bearish the market for so many reasons. I do see a possible this, came back to fill a gap, and now we have made. To me, I know the candle is red, but to me, that put to call ratio, that is a bullish signal on the VIX, which would mean bearish for the stock market. However, the stock market, as much as I don't want to admit it, it's about knowing when you're wrong. To me, this pattern is going to continue being bullish until we get through that underneath that trend line, until we get below that support of 300, 297, 300. Because Captain Save a Market has always showed up at these prices to buy the market up. So even though I have short positions in the market doesn't mean I am a permanent bear on the market. I will love to take these trades. In fact, we took this trade. We took this trade. We took all of these long trades. We rode them up to resistance and then, we sold them at resistance. Or as close, we tried to. I think on this last run, I think I sold out not even halfway up. I definitely took profit. Um, so that's where we're at. Thank you guys for tuning in this weekend. I will try to get some more videos out this week if I have time. Feel free to invite your friends, invite them to our Facebook group, Emerald City Traders Facebook page. We would love to have them. Thank you for your time this weekend and trade safe this week. We'll talk to you soon.